these webinars that me and Matt are winging our way through. So we did one at 11 o'clock this morning for, well, we've done 2 today. We've done one at 11 o'clock, and we're doing this one now. And what's quite nice, well, we're using Google Meet for it, and I know all of us have spent far too long over the last couple of days or last couple of weeks in various sort of online meeting type software, whatever flavor it is. But if you're not aware of Google, at the top there is a little chat box that you can open up, and then you can drop messages in there. If you would just like to sort of stick your name and where you're coming to us from, or where you're currently sat, not like in the living room, but what country, it would be great just to see what countries we are spanning. So I'll stick in France, deep darkest France. We've got Poland, we've got Brazil. Hello, Paul, how are you? UK, Milan, we've got BC, Austria. Excellent. Quite a dispersed, a wide group. I'm sitting in Auckland. Wow, 6 a.m. in the morning. That is commitment. We salute you. In that, me and Matt called the 11 o'clock the coffee one, and this was the apero one because we both sat here with a beer. But no, 6 o'clock in the morning. That's good on you. Well done. Right. So first of all, this is hellishly unofficial. This is not anything from the IB. This is just me and Matt getting this together because we fancied doing something like this. And well, the technology is pretty easy nowadays, and we're all using it a lot of the time at the minute. So we don't really want to get too bogged down in the nuts and bolts of how people are giving predicted grades and IO uploads and all that sort of fandango that's going on at the minute. We'd rather focus on just all things teaching and all things sort of resourcing and things, we'll talk about what we're doing in these lockdown lessons and all that sort of stuff. So just another thing to throw into the chat, how long have you been teaching offline or home-based teaching or whatever you're calling it so far? I'm 3 weeks in. What we got else? Everybody else, kind of 6 weeks. It's only 3 weeks. 3 weeks. So this morning's one we did, which was a little bit more for, I suppose, the Hong Kong Singapore type thing. Some people have been 11 weeks into offline teaching, so they were like, wow. Well, no, big hats off to anybody who can do this for 11 weeks and still be looking at, we've got no idea when we're going back. On paper, we're going back at the end. This is the first day of our Easter holidays. On paper, we're going back in 2 weeks' time. I somehow feel that's a little bit unlikely and better on for whether it's September or, anyway, we'll see. We'll keep going. What the plan is me and Matt are just going to chat through some of the bits and bats that we've been doing and what we've been working on recently. We've also got some bits and bats to share with you in terms of some things we found online recently that we really like. And then we're going to go on to a bit of a chat and question and answer about teaching IB geography or IGCSE geography or teaching geography, whatever, through online learning. That's going to be the main theme of this morning's chat, wherever you should be and whatever you're doing. If you've got questions, please either shout out, wave your arms, turn your webcam on. Let's see what chaos that causes, or just drop a message into the chat and we'll try to address most of the questions. If this works well, and we were quite happy with this morning's, he says, sort of slightly with cabin fever and impressed with all things, including whether he brushes his teeth twice a day, is that me and Matt are planning to do this maybe about every 3 weeks at the minute. So we've got ideas for future ones, but that's, please, shout out things that you would like to maybe hear about in the future. Just to sort of by way of introduction, I'm Richard. I work in Toulouse. So I work in Switzerland, but I live in France. So that was the comments between me and Kathleen earlier. So Switzerland is less than 2 kilometers that way through a closed border that I can't get through at the minute unless I have various bits of paper and prints out, some work permits and all that sort of stuff. So best to stay on this side. And I teach IB geography, but I also spend a lot of my time doing all the tech sort of support stuff for school. So the last 3 weeks and the 2 weeks running up to it have been rather busy. We have teachers that didn't know one end of a laptop from the other now delivering lessons on Google Meet, which is, well, it's quite impressive. I'm quite happy with it. Anyway, Matt, introduce yourself, what you're up to.
Yeah, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. My microphone and connection isn't the best at the moment. But yeah, I teach over in the International School of Toulouse, which is about 50 kilometers from where I am at the moment. And like Rich, the furthest I've been is to our local supermarket in the last 3 weeks. I think the car's done about 4 kilometers in 3 weeks. So saved vast sums on fuel going to school and back. Yeah, I've been there for about, this is my 11th year, having taken over from Rich when he left to go to Geneva. And I teach IB, IGCSE, and then all the year groups down to grade 6. So it's a pretty full complement, really. And so I'm hoping to speak to you kind of mostly about IB, really, but also some other things that I've been doing with the younger students as well. And it's really good to see some moving images of people who I've only seen profile photos for on the IBDP Facebook group. So it's nice to see you in real life and what you're actually moving, which is kind of quite weird, really. So I've got a couple of websites that I have, a Geography Pods website and an IB website as well. So most of you probably hate me because as everyone else was making their website free, I was in the middle of making mine go paid. So if you any abuse to give to me, then you can do that right at the beginning and get that out of the way. And Rich, you can cut that out of the final edit of the video. That would be great. But yeah, anyway, lovely to see you. And yeah, I'll be speaking to you shortly after Richard. Rich, have you unmuted yourself?
I haven't been only doing this for 3 weeks, and it's only my job to teach people how to do this. Anyway, let's try it again. So I'm just going to present or show some bits that I've been working on recently. So I don't usually set my students homework over the holidays. We tend to try to give them a break. The DP is hard enough without us taking more time off them over the holidays. However, at this time, it's a bit unusual, really, because we've got students on holiday with cancelled trips, with not particularly easily being able to leave the house and things like that. So I thought what I'd do this time is try to just give them some suggestions of things they could be doing geographically if they had the time or the inclination or they wanted to. So I put together what was called the GATW Spring Break menu. And this is based on loads of ideas or loads of menus and things which have been offered in the past and shared via Twitter. The idea being that you could pick up various bits and bats that you wanted to. So it starts with some starters, which is mainly podcasts. If you haven't had a look, I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but the podcast app I've been working on since the summer has now got 100. I added the 100th podcast to the other day, and it's all existing podcasts, all categorized by a DP topic, and the topics that I teach. So there's units 1 to 6, but there's also freshwater, extreme, and food and health. If anybody wants to work with me and suggest podcasts for the other optional themes, you're more than welcome, but I haven't got the time at the minute. And therefore, with my students, I've suggested 4 podcasts that they should be having a listen to. Some of it is stuff that we've just done, but some of it is stuff that we're about to do. So it's a bit like pre-reading. On the main courses, there's a bit of pre-reading. So with my DP1s, I'm about to do Aging Society, which will then lead into climate change. So there's a little bit of pre-reading for them to have a go at there. and then causes of global climate change. I really wanted them to have a read around. I can't see if I can see it here. Oh, there it is. This book I find to be really quite useful. It's a really great series, these the Ladybird expert books. They might find it a bit babyish, but I think this is a really sort of good starter for all things climate change. Written by the Prince of Wales, Tony Juniper, and Emily Suckborough. Tony Juniper used to be in charge of Greenpeace and things. He's actually the brother of our DP coordinator, but that's not the reason to plug it. It's really quite good. Also suggested reading the book. I've been trying to bully them into reading Factfulness for ages. And actually, our TOK teachers are now bullying them to read Factfulness as well. Like, get off our geography books, but I'll take it. And with some other ones down there as well. I made a confession this morning, and I'll make it again. I haven't read Prisoners of Geography yet. So I'm that far through. And my task this week is to actually read a proper book and get this finished. But I'm really enjoying this. And I think it's a super read for all the geographers. So yeah, if you haven't read Prisoners of Geography, get that done. Work on your extended essay, because some of quite a few of mine. And then the desserts are the sort of the topic, the icing's on the cake. If they're going to watch some Netflix, there's a series called Rotten on Netflix at the minute, which is really good. Every one of them is basically a geography case study. There's avocados, there's like Coca-Cola and water theft, and brilliant stuff. Also tried to put a playlist of documentaries together on YouTube, and there's some social media stuff. So that's what I've given them to have a look at and say, look, if you ignore it if you want, but if you get bored, please dip into this one rather than your physics list of homework that is longer than your arm. So that's sort of what, obviously I've been working, when I've been teaching remotely, I've been working on Geography All the Way lessons, and Geography All the Way sort of designed to be used by a teacher at the front of a classroom. So I've been changing quite a few lessons and how they fit and how they're organized. And you can find that if you're interested on the front page of Geography All the Way. I've just started to list the pages that I've actually changed to be remote learning pages in the pretty step-by-step approach. They're all worksheets, or pretty much there you go. And I wonder how long that list will get before we get back into the classroom. Right, so that's sort of my bits that I've been working on recently. I'm going to hand back to Matthew. Here he is.
Hello. Yes. Are we still good? Can you still hear me? Marvelous. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly change my screen and give you what I've been working on over here with my lot, and that is that my grade 12s, like yours, obviously have taken it quite hard. Some of them have taken it quite hard. The fact they don't have their final exams, and I've done a lot of speaking to them on Teams and trying to sort of calm things down a little bit and explain that actually what they have done is worthwhile, and it's not been a waste of 2 years and all the things that you guys have probably had to do as well. But one thing we haven't done is we haven't finished the course. We still, with a very short French year, we find it a real struggle to get through everything. We do, but it takes us right until the end of the course to finish. And so we still had the 3 previous weeks just gone, plus the Easter holidays, plus the week back after the Easter, where there were lessons and revision planned. And of course, one of the things from the IB was that they absolutely wanted the courses to be finished. RIAs had been done, had been uploaded quite a long time ago. And so the students were quite keen, actually, once the initial shock had set in, to finish the course. And the last things that I had to do with them was the population unit. And so, like Rich, and sort of stealing from his amazing podcast application that he's designed, is that I just put together a series of podcasts that I'd like them to listen to, all from the BBC Inquiry. I'm quite a big fan of that. I tend to listen to it every Thursday when I'm stuck in traffic, or not, as the case would be at the moment, going to work. And There were sort of 5 that you can see on your screen now, which pretty much covered the outstanding topics that we had left to do, which was all around population, pronatalist policy, gender issues, and anti-trafficking policies as well, which I thought was particularly good. And then for the higher level, just down here, we were kind of on the very last section, if you like, of the interactions, and there was some stuff on reshoring, cybersecurity, passports, and passports of the future. Again, I couldn't find podcasts on most of those. There's a couple of YouTube videos in there, but the kids were really quite keen to finish things off, actually. And I had 2 really keenies that when I set this a couple of weeks ago, they listened to everything, even the standard level students, in one afternoon sat in the garden. So they were, and I've sort of put them onto other podcasts that Rich has collated on his app as well, and they're busy listening to those at the moment. So that's kind of grade 12. Grade 11, it's been business as normal, really. They're sort of freaking out a little bit about what's going to happen. Will things be pushed forward? But we're just trying to keep things calm and trying to keep on top of everything. They started their work on option E, which is sport, leisure, tourism, which we're doing a 2-year cycle of for the first time. The previous 2 years I've done urban, and so the sport, leisure, tourism, although it's not ideal to be introducing that new unit from a sort of distance learning point of view, it's, I think, having taught urban, the preferable one to do. Actually, I'd rather do sport, leisure, tourism at distance than urban. And it's meant to lead us on to our IA, which we've postponed from going to Spain in May to hopefully going to Spain in the 3rd week of September to do the tourism study. So they've not been set any homework because they should have had exams when they come back after the spring break. They've now been postponed until the 2nd week in June, and so they're expected to create their revision resources. So my lot are busy putting together their revision clocks, which we try to do at the end of each of the units that we do, prompt cards, whatever else they're doing. And actually some of my grade 12 have been good enough to complete all of their revision clocks, and they pass them on to the grade 11s as a bit of revision as well. So grade 11s are currently revising for exams that are coming in 2.5 months' time, which isn't ideal, but that's the kind of world we're in at the moment. Grade 10, I was in a similar situation to grade 12, as I still had the last bit of IGCSE to finish off. So after speaking to the students and asking would they prefer the kind of worksheet approach or the podcast approach, they all said podcast approach. And so we've been setting these and then meeting up to discuss the content of them. In particular, the good one on here is they're all BBC Inquiry ones, but the 2 really great ones are Is Recycling Broken, which was from earlier on this year, and Have Our Climate Models Been Wrong, which was just about a month ago. And we've had some points. So that's that one. Grade 9, lower down the school, and the rest of the year groups are kind of doing what they should be doing, using Microsoft Teams. So like most of you, I'd imagine, finishing the week with truly square eyes and not wanting to go anywhere near a computer screen for the weekend. So Rich, over to you for the next bit. Put your microphone on though.
There it is. So professional, so good. Right. If you've got any questions at any point, please do shout out or stick them into the chat just so we can answer it along. It's not meant to be just me and Matt yattering on, but as you might have noticed, we're more than happy to. So what I want to show you, the idea of the next bit was just to show you some things about things we've been finding recently while we've been trawling online or on Twitter and things like that. So I just want to show you Information is Beautiful. So Information is Beautiful is an organization, or I think it's an original author, who was one of the first people to sort of really do infographics. I think they were the ones that came up with the coffee infographic that you see in most coffee shops with how each of the different sort of coffees are made up of various things. but they've been doing it for ages. They've got a good couple of coffee table books, which are great for looking for inspiration and ideas when you're looking at infographics. But what you've also got here is, and this, some of them aren't particularly useful. World's Best Hangover Cure probably isn't something you should be doing on the course. But two I wanted to show you. One is this one, which is their coronavirus data one, and you can see how often it's updated. So here's today's with various confirmed cases and cases per million. It really breaks things down really nicely, and the age trends and all that sort of stuff. So they've really done a really nice job here in showing what, all the available data which they've got, which is really good. I quite like that. And what they also have on there at the minute as well is something called Beautiful News. So every day they release a little infographic. So I follow this on Instagram actually, but these are really good if you need a little starter for a lesson, pulling up one of these onto the board and saying, why do kids like it? What does it show? All that sort of stuff. It's always got the source on. It's just a real nice way of bringing up infographics as something that kids are used to. Me and Matt have both putting together like a page of all the links and things that we're sharing at the minute, and we'll point you to that, or we'll definitely post links to that on Facebook this evening. But yeah, I'm really enjoying looking at that and following that at the minute. So if I stop sharing, Matt's gonna show some of his bits and bats. Hey, that sounds wrong. Sorry, Matthew. Matt, you're doing an hour muted.
It went a bit robot on me. That's all. But it's standing up pretty well. Okay, so I guess.
Matt, sorry to interrupt. Could I just ask you a quick question?
Yeah, cool.
Oh, by the way, thank you very much for doing the emergency thing that you did for me a couple of weeks ago with your website. But you said that for your final students, for your final year students, you said in my terms year 13, but in your terms grade 12. The last unit you do with them is the population unit.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you why you specifically chose to do population last?
Two reasons really. One is because we do IGCSEs, and there is a fairly enormous unit of work on population at IGCSE, and there isn't much new at IB. And so, although it probably lends itself to going first on the course, I don't like teaching it first because it's sort of covering old ground, and I prefer to go for something that they've never done before. So I always start with the climate change unit because that doesn't really come up at IGCSE. There's a tiny little section at the end. Also, I find it quite straightforward, and so whilst the students are absolutely done in by the end of grade 12 or year 13, they really are wondering why they're still going in geography when they finish most of the other subjects. And so it's quite a nice straightforward unit that's not too testing for them. It comes right at the end, but it's very personal for my school because of the IGCSE situation.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, because we do IGCSE too, but I actually do it, but it's to the first year of IGCSE. That's the first unit, that they do of the first year of IGCSE, and it's also the first unit that they do of the first year of IBDP, because I thought it would be 2 years since they've done it and they know a little bit about it, to ease them in, because it's a refresher, but there's kind of some new things in it. But actually I'd like your way of thinking as well, because they're pretty stressed in their final year of school. They're pretty stressed at this time in a normal year, let alone this year, which is with everything happening. But that's an interesting way of thinking about it, actually, that way too.
It's very much, I don't know, the term used a lot isn't well-being, but it's very much just trying to think tactically about what is best for them at that particular time of year. And the most straightforward thing to do is population, which the majority have studied before in fairly, fairly decent depth. So it's a tactical thing from my point of view. That's all, nothing more.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I've always been dead sort of on the idea that you shouldn't teach the syllabus in the order it comes. So, I mean, I start with Unit 3. I don't even start, Unit 1, we get to about this time of the year once we've sort of, because Unit 3 feels a bit of a sexier start to the course and it's a bit more circular economy and stuff. But yeah, there's multiple ways to do it. We finish with food and health, actually, which next year will be the last lesson or the last bit's all about pandemics. So that might be quite easy for them, hopefully. Or as someone asked this morning, will coronavirus just be an overly quoted thing to the examiners? Will they hear so much about it that they get bored about it? But I just say to my students, if you're going to do something that everybody's going to do, you best do it well. So yeah, that's the idea on that one. Matt, back to you from some of your top tip, your recent finds. Can't hear you, mate. You're muted. Down at the bottom. Yeah, there he is.
Okay, sorry, it's the hamster's having to pedal really quite hard tonight to keep up with this broadband stuff. Okay, I'm going to try and see how we get on with this. So this sort of first thing really for me is a big shout out to Paul, really, who's I know is on here tonight from Brazil, and that's because essentially this is his little brainchild. And most of you will have seen this on group. So Paul came up with a brilliant idea that he's in the same predicament as me, which is, although we're not going to have our grade 12 students back after the spring break, we are going to have the grade 10 students back until their very last exam, which would have been on the 5th or 6th of June. So we need to plan and prepare 6 weeks worth of lessons. Of course, it can't be IBDP content because we're not allowed to do that. So you can't start teaching the course early, nor would that be a particularly good idea because you're going to get new students coming in September or August, whenever you start. And so Paul had this kind of brainwave that he was going to put together this booklet. This is the one. It is on the Facebook group that's been hyperlinked as a Google Doc, and he's come up with these 8 sort of core principles, if you like, that the students are probably not going to have heard of before. I can't speak for NYP schools because we're not an NYP school, but certainly at IGCSE, it's so old-fashioned that none of these things come in there at all. And so he's kind of come up with this brilliant model of taking each of these kind of really important and new concepts to them, and a simple watch, read, listen, a place where it's happening, a brief summary, and then some discussion points, which for me as a distance learning task, or if we happen to be in school, are going to be absolutely perfect. So I've got other teachers in my school tearing their hair out thinking, well, we've got 6 weeks of planning to do for lessons that we're not meant to teach. What the hell are we going to do? And I was kind of thinking that too. And then Saviour Paul came along with his amazing idea. So again, I've hyperlinked this document through to the site where we'll put all the resources and posts to you at the end. But that's an absolutely outstanding resource, and I think it is still editable. Paul will maybe tell us afterwards. And so again, I've sort of added on a few little podcasts. I quite like the idea increasingly of students moving away from watching things to listening to things. I think certainly they get so much visual stuff nowadays that simply switching off, putting a pair of headphones in and just listening to something is increasingly quite a powerful. My focus after the spring break, remotely or not, and then on top of that, some of the things that we've been working on are, this is courtesy of Alan Parkinson, who has the Living Geography blogspot, which is the kind of place to go for all things geographical on a daily basis. And a lot of the kids in my school are really struggling with the amount of time spent online. So I also have the Geography Pods website where I have, as you might call it, sort of lower school and middle school work on there. And I've sort of given my students this and said, right, get away from your screens, go out into your gardens, do a bit of local field work, go and explore things in your house, dig out food items, clothing items, a bit of kind of geography of my stuff. And he's put together these 10 tasks, again, which are linked and we'll share with you afterwards. And the kids have really enjoyed doing that. They've kind of really enjoyed being away from the screen, wandering around in their gardens, kind of sending through evidence, posting stuff on Padlet, for example. We did something on the geography from my bedroom window, looking outwards, that is. And so that's been a godsend actually for the younger kids who are kind of struggling with the screen time and a bit too much in terms of Microsoft Teams. And then a couple of other things really that this has been adapted from stuff that's been out there on Twitter. I think it was Jen that originally did this, but these excellent home geographer tasks, which are essentially a series of small tasks aimed at the younger students of watching or reading or listening to a place of the week, a what if, and a get outside. So in France, it's tricky at the moment because we are kind of locked down and you've got to have paperwork to leave your house, and the fines are 250 euros if you leave without it. I don't fancy being kind of held responsible for telling my younger ones to go off and explore. So my kind of first point, I thought, well, I'm going to change that and do something to do with roads because they can all see roads from where they are. And that leads us into the Bolivian road of death and something about that road and why it was created and why it's so dangerous. And that's kind of exciting stuff. And then possibly roads of the future in the listen section, the place of the week being a bit of Bolivian geography. And then some of these brilliant what if questions, you know. So mine is Toulouse is really quite well known for traffic jams. So build more roads, that's going to solve the traffic jams, right? And we've had some quite good discussion about that on Teams. And then the outside thing about, you know, doing a quick car count on the road outside, which is stretching it a bit at the moment because you're not really meant to be outside unless it's an emergency. And then thinking about what that road might look like in 100 years' time. And the second side just being a section that you can sort of fill in and take notes. And again, I think they appreciate that sort of field work stuff. And then again, on to other bits and pieces, really a couple of things. Visual Capitalist, you've probably heard of before. It's brilliant. Their chart of the week this week kind of links into what Rich was saying before about the sort of COVID situation and the aging population in the States, which is not the only place that has an aging population, but of course looks at the risk to those population numbers, considering the kind of demographic impacts of that virus. Another one, which is just a fun one to look at, people, is this one here. It's called dinosaurpictures.org/ancient Earth. This is kind of continental drift Google Earth style, where you can, works for option D pretty well, and it works a lot for IGCSE and lower down the school as well. Some of you guys will have seen this, but you've got the option to sort of rewind the clock back, you know, several 100 million years and check out the form of the planet. And if you just pop into the top left-hand corner the name of the place you live, it actually plots it on there. And if you look pretty carefully, you'll see that they also put the political borders of the modern day land masses on there as well. So that's just a nice little have a play with and see what you can get on with. And my last little bit of recommendation is this beauty from the Gapminder team, which is Dollar Street. So it's the factfulness stuff again. And you've probably used this before. It's your kind of 4 levels. And what makes this a bit different is it's meant to show you that disparities exist within countries. And so, for example, you've got your level 1 countries, level 2, level 3, level 4. And here you've straight away, you've got China in level 4. How's that possible? And it provokes some really great discussion. And the way I've used it in IB this week is with my introduction to leisure. And I know Rich says that if you teach sport, leisure and tourism, it's cheating geography. I agree, but it allows me to go to Barcelona for my field work, which is lovely. But this is economic development and participation in leisure activities. And so get a nice little Gapminder Dollar Street task going on here. 264 homes photographed in 50 different countries. They always photograph 135 objects. And so I thought, as a good introduction into this, you know, go into some of these countries and check out, for example, what the children's toys look like. So it sort of takes you straight to this 4-level entry, and you get to start to see a little more about the facilities, the services, the goods and services that these families can afford to buy. It's very visual, and of course, if you click on any of these images, it also gives you the kind of profile of the family, where they live, and lets you go into the rest of the house as well. But I think, you know, we deal with a lot of information, a lot of data, and particularly this site and the way it's structured provokes discussion. It's a good kind of TOK point, and it's just nice and visual for those kids, you know, who are a bit snowed under with all the words and the essays and whatever else. So that's worked really quite nicely for me this week, in terms of the sport, leisure and tourism from a distance. So Dollar Street from Gapminder, I'm sure you've seen it before, but if not, fits in with the population unit really, really well as well. So I'll hand back to Rich, or if there's any questions, I can take those as well. Yes, they are. And they'll be available on the Rich's site and my site. We've posted everything we've talked about today is posted there, and we'll pop the link on here and on the Facebook group at the end of the session. Okay, Richard.
So the idea was to sort of finish things off maybe over the next 10-15 minutes with a discussion of all things sort of teaching from home, or this home-based learning, or whatever the buzzword of what we're calling it is at the minute. Now this group of people, you know, in this webinar at the minute aren't quite as intimidatingly seasoned as when we were talking to the more Asian focus group earlier in the day, when they'd got their 10 weeks. How dare we talk about it only being 3 weeks in, newbies. But lots of schools are doing it in different ways. I mean, my school, we are maintaining our timetable. So at the start of every lesson, the students are in a Google Meet to be registered. But the approach I've taken is, at the start of each week, I send them a message through ManageBack, which sort of is an outline of the week. So this week, we're going to be covering this, this, and this. Gives them a little bit of a flavour of what's coming up. And I think it's really important for the Year 12s to know that what you're doing is still keeping them on track, and you're still sort of, you know, the business is still as usual. I also then try to put a little, I always try to give them a podcast to listen to in there for the week, and also a little bit of fun. So the other week we were doing disparities between China and the US. So there was a little silly game to play to see if you could name American cities and Chinese states. So that went down quite well. Last week they had to share their ultimate playlist for getting work done. Most of our kids listen to like YouTube or something in the background. So that was quite good to see where they were coming from. They quite enjoyed that. But then at the start of every lesson, they also get a task through ManageBack, and then we meet online to do the register. A bit of banter about what's going on. They all want to see usually the baby, because most of them, me and Eleanor work in the same school, so most of them know the story, which is quite good. And then I sort of explain what they need to do. Most of them get on with it. And then I stay in this meeting so that they can come back to it with any questions which they want to. And I just sit here and either give some feedback on their work from last lesson, or nip off and make a cup of tea and do a quick nappy change or something like that, just with my computer always on. And then it is, in my opinion, at the minute, the Year 12 stuff is working all right. I don't feel that they're being too disadvantaged. Ask me when we hit week 10 or whatever how that's going for them. But at the minute, I think if we went back to school after Easter, it would have, you know, there'd be no sort of real negative. However, I think our chances of going back to school after Easter remote in the largest. And what I've been doing is I've been teaching geography. Yeah, I've been using geography all the way, as I always do. But as I said before, I've been changing some of the pages so that there's a little bit more instruction for the kids, because I usually work with geography all the way on a board behind me. So there we go. But there is lots of people out there or organisations who are offering their stuff up for cheap or free at the minute, unlike Matt, who just, you know, took this opportunity to. But anyway, I pull his leg. In Thinking is doing something at the minute where you can get on and have a look at things. There's obviously Cognitive as well. But I mean, that's really sort of the main IB ones. There is also the GA, the Geographical Association in the UK, has made all their teaching resources material freely available. So is the RGS, which has got a massive amount of resources. I'll let Matt go on and sort of share some other ones because he's got some good ideas and suggestions on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just really the same as that. If you've been following the IBDP Facebook group, and then another Facebook group that we set up, which is teaching geography through during COVID, that a lot of people have been posting some really good stuff on there, and some stuff that's always been free. Things like the Time for Geography videos, and the team there are just fantastic. And if you're doing any sort of physical geography units in fresh water, possibly extreme environments, or the coasts optional unit, that there's some really cracking stuff in there that you would kind of want to lean on really to enhance what you're trying to do remotely. And it is difficult to teach some of those kind of more physical concepts, I think, when you're not actually in front of the class and drawing dodgy diagrams. So the Time for Geography videos are absolutely invaluable. And as Rich says, you know, sort of getting on and having a good look in the in-thinking stuff that Paul Christmas does, and has put together a really comprehensive list of stuff over the last 2 to 3 years. GA, RGS, and yeah, most sites have got some sort of access available, but I guess most of you will sort of be textbooking it and dipping in and out various websites that fit with your optional themes, for example, or amending stuff that's out there to make it fit with kind of your localities as well. So as I say, for me, it's certainly easier at the moment having a website that's set up in a sort of step-by-step way with tasks, videos, worksheets. I know it's a bit death by worksheet, but it sort of works, and I think the students are fairly happy with that and knowing that they're getting through what they should be getting through. So I don't know if anyone's got any other sort of tips, amazing things they found which are free to use or would like to share with the rest of us, for example. Stunned silence, or no one switched the microphones on, I don't know. I think we put them into a trance, Rich. Oh,
Right, the booklet, which, by the way, you've given me credit for, we both came up with the idea together. The podcast was a fantastic addition to that, which I really love, because that appeared the next morning when I woke up. I was just like, oh, that's fantastic, I should have done that. So there's 8 things at the moment. I know it's going really well because the feedback I'm getting from my year 11s is they're extremely looking forward to, you know, starting the IB course, which is phenomenal. I've got halfway through it already, so I'm already burning through my booklet as we speak. So I'm adding more stuff. Interesting enough, it's amazing that Richard told us about the Information is Beautiful website. So what I've been doing over the weekend, and I've just started putting it together now, is stuff on the infographics. Because the one thing that I've wanted to work better on, because I'm really happy with the options unit. They know how it's structured until the essay question. And the core paper, for example, is very straightforward as well. When it comes to the infographics, obviously that was brand new from the old spec where it didn't exist before. I'm pretty sure everyone's in the same boat where the students know how to answer the 1 mark, 3 mark, and then it goes up to a 4 mark and then 6 mark. So what I'm currently doing is collating a ton of infographics, but more for the year 11s to eventually get on, because I've been told by my school that our year 11s are pretty much going to be here until the very end. I don't know whether that's to make sure that we don't lose their money or whatnot, but I guess we'll find out. But the 4 and 6 mark, I reckon there's a lot of skills basically to be developed there in terms of how can any infographics be improved upon. And then the 6 marker of, and even my year 13s in the previous school struggle with the 6 marker, evaluate the element of the infographic as well. And I think it's a skill which definitely I can touch upon now, and then obviously you bring that forward into year 12 and 13 in the future. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled, because all I'm going to do is basically then attach that to the working document that's on the Facebook group at the moment.
There's been quite a few people making the request that maybe next the next one of these, if we do another one in say about 3 weeks' time, will be sort of more, maybe the theme for it will be infographics, which is an idea to have a look at, especially those more tricksy questions at the end that I'm not 100% sure how they're being written, if you know what I mean. I need to sort of go back and have another think about them before we go back and do too much. But yeah, that's definitely a theme. But thank you for that, Paul, and that work you're doing.
Does that mean we have to watch your dodgy video again on the IB site?
No, that can't be done.
With your tank top. Okay, that's good.
Right. Any other questions? I mean, I was just going to share one. Let's do any questions, and I'll share one last thing before we go. Anybody got anything? Any burning things they want to talk about? Any issues? So we've got the November papers. Hello, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Richard, and thanks for organizing this. I'm also wondering how kids can do their extended essay in moments like this. I know you've shared on Facebook that we can use secondary resources, and there's an opportunity to lead students to use secondary resources. Any idea?
As a school,
this time, and if there are resources, that will help.
As a school, we've sort of leaped on the opportunity that we might as well get as much of the extended essay as we can do now done with our students. So if that means suggesting that maybe some of them don't do things that require data collection and push them towards secondary data, that is maybe a good thing to do. So, for example, our scientists, science teachers, because the kids can't get into the labs to do the data collection that they need to do, they're sort of being gently pushed towards having a look at more world studies and things like that. I've actually been meeting my extended essay students online. I've got 5 of them in preparation for next year, so in the year 12s. And we're just working on, or they are just working on writing their titles at the minute, or their research questions. And all of them are progressing brilliantly. I don't think these times have actually changed too much, because on the whole, I tend to push my students or encourage my students towards stuff that is mainly secondary data focused. I don't, I sort of say a good like 70-30 or 80-20 mix. They can collect some of their own data, that's brilliant. They definitely need to be adding value to the data that they're using and all that sort of stuff. But I actually think, yeah, the current situation is messing up people's IAs a treat. Yeah, we'll talk about that maybe in a later one of these webinars. But actually, the extended essay, I think they can just crack on and get as much done as they can. But we're keeping to the usual deadline of at the minute they should be coming up with their research questions and going into like their first reflection. I'm pushing mine hard to do a really detailed outline once we get back after spring break, with the idea that they write it over the summer holidays. I think that's really sort of where we're heading. I'm trying to build up the extended essay stuff that I've got in geography all the way. Mainly it's just support for the meetings I have with the students in terms of there's like a process to go through for research questions and stuff. This will build up. This site will get, I've just dropped it into the chat. I will do more and more on this when I can, and probably if we don't go back to school particularly soon, it will surface high enough on my jobs list that I start putting some more time into it. But yeah, I think if you have students who have got a trapped at home, getting on with their extended essay isn't the worst thing they could be doing. Anybody else got any sort of extended essay?
Thank you very much, Richard.
No, it's a pleasure. Any ideas or support or experiencing similar things with the extended essay? And we've got a free introductory skill. Oh, that's a good shout. Thank you, Britta. Let me. I'd heard about that. I'd forgotten about it. That's something I could send my 5 kids towards. Right. Thank you. I'll try to put that onto the site as well. So just to finish off, I'm just going to share my screen with a sort of a final thing, and that is I've been using this website. I do a little bit of NYP teaching, or I did till I had to pick up Eleanor's year 12s and 13s, and we've been doing an urban unit, and the final sort of unit I was doing or looking at was this site called Unequal Scenes, which I think has been in various publications and things recently, but some fantastic drone imagery of lots of South Africa, but also other parts of the world. Some great ones in Mumbai, just showing disparities so close to one another. So partnering that with some of Matt's ideas of using Dollar Street and stuff like that, there's some super imagery here of things so close together in terms of rich and poor. I particularly like this one, and actually it's not an awful lesson, but it's a bit of a cheats lesson, trying to find some of these places on Google Earth and if they can work out. And actually a lot of them, I've found a lot of the good ones in terms of where they actually are, and then before you can start doing Google Street View drive-throughs and all that sort of stuff. So that as a final one, maybe I could just share the geography all the way. It's free access lesson. There's all my NYP stuff is free for everybody. Let me just see if I can quickly find that and just share it over here. Where was that? So that was this lesson here. And yeah, there's some Google Earth sort of suggestions and a little bit of a thinking routine to go through. But that's sort of us. That's me and Matt sort of finished for this evening, unless you've got any final questions. What we have been doing is jotting down all the links and stuff that people have been sharing, both me and Matt and other people's stuff. And we will stick this onto, we're both developing websites apparently. Well, it's a good thing we're both, you get two sort of looks at how it looks at, and we'll drop those, the links to those in the Facebook group later on with videos of this if you want to watch it again, or you have trouble sleeping, this could help, you never know. But basically that's about it. Thank you very much. If there's any final questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. No, that's about it. Well, if this goes well, or we're happy with this, we'll see you again in 3 weeks' time. As long as we're lockdown hasn't taken Matt's broadband away from him completely.
No. If I survive another 3 weeks with my 3 young children, then it'll be quite an achievement. So yeah, I'm not quite sure I'll be looking the same in 3 weeks. But yeah, it's great to see you all, and I hope just keep in contact with via the Facebook group. And if you need anything in the meantime, just message for sure. And hopefully, if this works, what are we planning for the next one, Rich? Is it the 27th of April or thereabouts?
And we'll do something infographic-y.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I can let you get on with that then, hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks.
Brilliant. Super.
Right. See you all. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.